Good afternoon or good morning to everybody, depending on where you're coming to us from. This is John Sibyl from Acorn Wealth for your stock setups for Monday. Of course, we will just take a quick look at the disclaimer and then we will get started. All right, here we go. So, lovely to have you all here. We've got the disclaimer up on the screen, or it should be popping up on the screen if my mouse is going to cooperate. There we go. Okay. So standard disclaimer, Acorn Wealth Corp is an educational company, so these are not recommendations to buy or sell securities. Discussed options trading and stock trading involves risking all the capital invested. Okay, so we're going to go and take a look quickly at the market. So we've obviously had our open range, and we don't have the signal yet, but we have the open range. So if we go and take a look at where things are sitting currently, obviously on Friday's trading day, we saw basically equal volume to that of which we saw in the previous 3 days. We are just kind of going back and forth at the moment. Now, we're not yet at the overall flag target, but we are at short-term resistance. So that's why it's struggling there, because you can see it's kind of at this double top. Now it's holding for now. For now, the flag, the best case flag target is still up here around 29.89, 3,000. So there is potential for us to push higher. Right now, we are pushing higher in the early morning futures, but we need to get above. Well, basically, what's the high of the 21st? Let's just take a quick look here. I want to make sure it's correctly reporting it. The high on the 21st was 2964.15. 2964.15. So we need to get above that and close above that today if we're going to continue bullish for the rest of this week. And as you can see, there's really not a lot of time. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days until things roll over and the open range resets for July. Now, in terms of so individual stocks, I wouldn't be getting too aggressive one way or the other unless a really clear pattern forms. If anything, I'd be erring on the side of caution for starting to look for some possible shorts if we get a bearish open range for July. I think this week is going to be about conserving profits, protecting positions, and kind of planning for next week is my focus because of the short time frame of open range. There's not a great deal of reward in spending a lot of time for only 4 days worth of a window. However, if you've got things on your watch list, by all means. And I've got a couple you can take a look at today if you're a more aggressive trader. But RTTR, obviously, we'll go through a couple of updates. RTTR hit its target, first target there on the 20th of June on Thursday. So beautiful run up, bang, straight into that $1 area. I think 98 cents was our first target. So successful there and still forming that wedge. So I know that we also wanted to see a close above 103, I believe, for the or a nice, good, strong trade above 103 as a next potential entry signal, and obviously our target up from there is up in the 150 range. MDT, Mike Delta Tango, is doing nicely, just keeps pushing up higher and higher and higher. So what we want to do there is potentially consider updating 90 to stop to 96.90. So I say potentially consider because obviously I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I could certainly suggest that the strategy we follow would suggest that a move like this would warrant considering updating the stop loss. So and that's where our support based on our technicals tell us is at 96.90. ENT had a beautiful move on Friday, running straight into the profit target, first profit target of 88 cents. It pulled back then after hitting that target, so you can see why these targets are important because they represent real resistance. It ran right into that, went straight back down to 70 cents. So Acorn did sell a bunch of our position there. We're still holding the other half, so we're back down to a few cents above our entry point. So we'll wait and see now if we what happens on Monday. NUGT, which we're holding the calls on, is doing nicely so far. Gold futures are up currently in after-hour trading. You can see here, there's the gold market right there. So the gold is pushing, excuse me, higher. However, I would caution that in these early days, you start to see the candles contract. So we'll keep an eye on this, but we may be nearing a short-term top. So if you are in a short-term speculative position, we are kind of more in and out, you might find that there's some profit taking to be had here. For the longer term speculators, this could be all part of a run, obviously, that that may only be just a short way in. But again, as we've talked about quite extensively, this is it's a volatile move. It could end up at $35, or it could end up back at 19. So just keep that in mind. Bear that in mind when you're dealing with highly volatile things such as this. But that's obviously kind of where the target we were looking at was around 31 to 32, and based on that downward channel breakout, as you can see there. So, and then I believe on the weekly chart, where do we go? We're looking at commodities, gold. Do we do anything on the weekly chart? I mean, obviously you can see there's a nice little breakout there. Just check that. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of fitting what we want to see in on that a little bit, because it's not perfect back there, but there certainly seems to be some bullishness in the gold itself, which I would be looking at a target of around 1600 on gold. So I mean, we'll wait to see. It's early, but obviously moving nicely so far, and the calls have done well. The calls were already up. What are we percentage-wise? Let me just check. Percentage-wise, we're already up 89% on the call option. So nothing wrong with taking a little bit of profit, but it could certainly run much further. Okay. Last couple, we've got AKRX, which we're also holding. AKRX is doing well so far. Early days, but looking really good. Just kind of holding now. I'll use the same chart format here. There we go, AKRX. So yeah, it's holding nicely. Bounced off of the breakout zone fairly well, and just kind of holding there. So that's looking good. All right. On the long side, CRAY is doing awesome. Oh, excuse me, short side, CRAY is doing awesome. It's had a nice big drop there on Friday. We mentioned it in Trading Room on Tuesday when I was hosting. I mentioned how good this is looking, and it still looked valid for an entry. Obviously, the target is still quite a ways away at 27.43, so it still looks great. And I would now look at lowering the stop signal to 38.13. 38.13 is where I would be looking at a stop signal there. Okay. Pizza. We have beautiful move. Obviously talked about this on Tuesday as well. Absolutely awesome. So a nice big drop. And again, you'll remember me mentioning, looking at these stock twits and things like that, and saying, you know, it's amazing how many people don't know how a Head and Shoulders works. So you know, there you go. You see, it's working beautifully so far. Perfect entry, perfect drop. The puts are up almost 60% already, and looking great. So it did hit its first profit target right here around 45, which we talked about. I would consider lowering the stop now to 47.43, and of course you've got an opportunity to have already taken some profits. The next target area is going to be 41.27. So right now that's looking good. You may get a little bit of a bounce up today, maybe a bit of consolidation, but so far the pattern's well intact. Okay. Onto a couple of setups for you to take a look at. These are both aggressive setups, and they are aggressive, so they're maybe more kind of a day trader style of stock. And because we have a short window in terms of the open range, this is why I'm focusing on short-term trades. For anything I'm going to hold longer than a week or so, I'm going to be waiting really till next week to look for some of those longer term types of setups, because the window of opportunity with open range is so short. So I'm really only looking for trades that I can actually kind of day trade or get in and out of very quickly. And and of course we don't yet know which way open range is going to go. So these are really more focused on kind of more of a day trading sentiment or high risk short term. So this might not be suitable for everybody here. KERN IPO'd last week, and obviously it shot right up from Tuesday down to $11.20 all the way up to $72, all the way back down again. So as you can see, that I don't really care about the stock itself. I believe they're a cannabis play, not quite sure, but it's a nice technical potential setup. As you can see here, you got some support, which is now resistance. It's broken that low with increasing volume. So I would be, if you're able to watch this at the open, or if you're willing to want to take a bit of a shot here, this could quite likely be a nice little breakdown. If it breaks below what was the low here, 2680, so 2677, 2673. Yeah, at 2673. Again, if you have the time to watch it during the day, and you see it rally up into the moving average and kind of create a candle like this, basically, as the moving average comes down on top of it, that would also be a valid entry from the way that I would look at this. And then I'd be looking at just a nice little drop down to 2085. So 2085 is what I'm looking at there. Okay, and then from a stop loss standpoint, obviously I need to be above this area. So I mean, it depends on what the entry is. If it rallies up and hits the moving average, I'm going to be looking at a stop loss at say 32.31. Right. So yeah, so I'll jot that down in my notes here. So on a moving average entry, I'd look at a stop loss at 32.31. If it just continues to drop, and then therefore the moving averages are dropping with it, I would be starting at 32.31 and then lowering that. So you may find that just depending on when it triggers is going to depend on the moving average. So 32.31 is going to be the best case scenario. Excuse me, worst case scenario. You may find it actually ends up being lower. My first target there would be 2085. So we're looking at basically a $6 drop. So just take a look at that. And again, the stop loss is going to depend on that entry. So as you can see, it's a bit more active. The other one on the long side, Ethereum's looking half decent. Let's just go to a daily chart here. So as you can see, we've kind of got this kind of nice little hammer candle. If we start to see some bullishness in that today, that could lend itself for another trade setup on ETCG. Now ETCG has been rolling over, so I do want to kind of see how Ethereum opens. It starts to move, if it starts to break out on that hammer candle. But as you can see, ETCG was rolling over in the late part of Friday. But this is it's harder to trade the chart on ETCG. What you're really trading is you're trading the chart on Ethereum. So as you can see, it was rolling over at the end of the day. Well, that's the 23rd. That was 22nd. So we've had so the 21st is where we closed. So we've had 1, 2, 3 days of data on Ethereum that's happened since the market closed on ETCG. So we may see this start to bounce. So far, the money flow is looking really good. So I would say that a speculative trade on ETCG may be ready. And I'm just going to go to my other chart here because I've got a bit more charted up on this. This could be this could be ready to kind of roll back up and have another run at that $46 level. So check that out again as a more advanced setup. That's all for today, folks. And I will look forward to seeing you all in Trading Room on Tuesday evening from Bruges, Brussels. I should say Bruges, Belgium. This is me checking out, and we will talk to you all later. Have a great day of trading, and see you all soon. Cheers.